Y'all ready?
Yeah.
We're ready.
I guess I should tell you a little bit of how I learned this story first. So I was actually on a boat from Cape Town, South Africa to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, a 44-foot catamaran, me and two guys named Mark. And we lost the inverter on the third day of the trip, 45 days at sea. So I had a lot of time on my hands. The boat had power, luckily, but we couldn't plug anything in. So luckily, I had my favorite childhood story that I'd always kind of wanted to learn how to memorize. And this was an opportunity for me to actually learn that. And I wrote it all out, and I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I polished it. And now I'm able to present it for children and burners alike. So who's ever heard this story before? Who's never heard this story before? You're in for a treat. You're all in for a treat. So this is my favorite childhood story, Dr. Seuss, The Lorax. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing excepting old crows, is the street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the grickle grass, woo, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood just as long as he could before somebody lifted the Lorax away. But what was the Lorax, and why was it there, and why was it lifted and taken somewhere from the far end of town where the grickle grass grows? The old Once-ler still lives there. Ask him. He knows. You won't see the Once-ler. Don't knock on his door. He stays in his lurkum on top of his store. He lurks in his lurkum, cold, under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of muffered moof. And on special dank midnights in August, he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. At the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail and the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather snail. Then he pulls up the pail, makes a most careful count to see if you paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you paid him away in his snub, a secret strange hole in his grovulous glove, and then he grunts. I'll call you by whisper-my-phone, for the secrets I tell are for your ears alone. Slop! Down slups the whisper-my-phone to your ear, and the old Once-ler's whispers are not very clear, for they have to come down through a snurgly hose, and it sounds as if he has smallish bees up his nose. Listen, he says, with his teeth sounding gray, and I'll tell you how the Lorax was lifted away. It all started way back. Such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green, when the pond was still wet, when the clouds were still clean. The song of the Swami Swans rang out in space. One morning I came to this glorious place, and I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright-colored tufts of the truffula trees, waving mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees I saw the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and happily lived eating truffula fruits. And from the ripulous pond came the comforting sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those trees, all my life I'd been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tuft was much softer than silk, and they had the sweet smell. Fresh butterfly's milk. I felt a great leaping of joy in my heart. I knew just what I'd do, so I unloaded my cart, and in no time at all, I had built a small shop, and I had chopped down a truffula tree with one chop. And with great skillful skill, and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tuft, and I knitted a thneed. There's another camera. At that very moment, I heard a gazump. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump. It was sort of a man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy. And he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. I am the Lorax, and I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues, and I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs. He was very upset as he shouted and puffed, "What's that thing that you made out of my truffula tuft?" "Look, Lorax," I said, "there's no cause for alarm. I'm being quite useful. I'm doing no harm. This thing is a thneed. A thneed's a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a glove, it's a sock, it's a hat, but it has other uses. Yes, far beyond that. You could use it for carpets or pillows or sheets or curtains or covers for bicycle seats." "Sir," said the Lorax, "you're crazy with greed. There's no one on earth that'll buy that fool thneed." Well, the very next moment, I proved he was wrong, for just at that moment, a chap came along and he thought the thneed that I knitted was great, and he happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax. "Ha! You poor stupid guy. You never can tell what some people will buy." "I repeat," said the Lorax, "I speak for the trees." "I'm busy," I said. "Shut up if you please." And I rushed across the room. And in no time at all, I built a radio phone and I put in a quick call. I called all my cousins and uncles and aunts and I said, "Listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole Once-ler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast, take the road to North Nitch, turn left at Weehawken, sharp right at South Stitch." Then, in no time at all, in the factory I'd built, the whole Once-ler family was working full tilt. They were all knitting thneeds, just as busy as bees, to the sound of the chopping of truffula trees. Then, oh baby, oh, how my business did grow. Soon chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which could whack off 4 truffula trees in one smacker. Now we were making thneeds 4 times as fast as before. And that Lorax, well, he didn't show up anymore. But the next week, he knocked on my new office door. "I'm the Lorax. I speak for the trees, which you seem to be chopping just as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and happily lived, eating truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking all my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruits to go round, and my poor barbaloots are all getting the crummies, because they've got gas and no food in their tummies. They love living here, but I can't let them stay. They have to find food, and I hope that they may. Good luck, boys," he cried, and he sent them away. "Now you have to go." No, I'm just kidding. I, the Once-ler, felt sad as I watched them all go, but business is business, and business must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know? I meant no real harm. I most certainly did not, but I had to grow bigger, so bigger I got. I biggered my factory, I biggered my roads, I biggered my wagons, I biggered the loads of the thneeds I shipped out. I was shipping them forth to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north. I went right on biggering, selling more thneeds, and I biggered my money, which everyone needs. Then, again he came back. I was fixing some pipes when that old nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes. "I'm the Lorax," he said with a sniff. He wheezed, he wuzzled, he snargled, he sniffed. "Once-ler," he cried with a cruffulous croak, "Once-ler, you're making such smogulous smoke that my poor swami swans, they can't sing a note. No one can sing who has smog in their throat. So I'm sending them off. But where will they go? I don't hopefully know. They may have to fly for a month or a year to escape all the smog you've smogged up around here. What's more," said the Lorax, and his dander was up, "let me say a few words about gluppity-glup. Your machines, they chug on day and night without stop, making gluppity-glup, also schloppity-schlop. And what do you do with this leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old Once-ler man, you. You're glumping the pond where the humming fish hummed. No more can they hum, for their gills are all gummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll have to walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so smeary. Well, then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled at the Lorax, "Now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap, yap, yap and say bad, 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 bad. Well, I have my rights, sir, and I'm telling you, I'm gonna keep doing just what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering. Turning more truffula trees into needs, which everyone needs." That very moment, we heard a loud whack. From out in the fields came the sickening smack of an axe on a tree. And we heard the tree fall. The very last truffula tree of them all. No more trees, no more needs, no more work to be done. So soon my uncles and aunts and everyone all climbed into my cars and drove off beneath smoke-smuggered stars. And all that was left beneath this bad-smelling sky was my big empty factory, the Lorax, and I. The Lorax said nothing, just gave me a glance. Just gave me a sad, sad backwards glance as he lifted himself by the seat of his pants. And I'll never forget the grim look on his face as he hoisted himself and took leave of this place through a hole in the dust without leaving a trace. And all that the Lorax left here in this mess was a small pile of stones with the one word, unless. And whatever that meant, well, I just couldn't guess. But every day since that day, as my buildings have fallen apart, I've sat here and wondered with all of my heart. But now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. So, catch. And he let something fall. It's a truffula seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the truffula seeds. And truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula. Treat it with care. Feed it free, clean water. Feed it fresh air. Give it clean water. Feed it fresh air. Grow a forest. Protect it from axes that hack. And soon, the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I'm Bush Ninja.